So, my dear viewers, the curious thing for men was their styles were echoed, or rather caricatured, by young men who were certainly not of their class. The so-called teddy boys, the exaggerated shoulder line was an assertion of masculinity. Masculinity, the strength of man. For they lived in a world where it paid to be a tough guy. The man has to be tough to show off. Not necessarily. So it paid to be a tough guy. The exaggeration of sexual characteristic was typical of female costume, and for long periods of history of male costume as well. The battle of the sexes rather than aesthetic principles and foreign thought was the central issue of the 90s, reflected in changing legislation. Legislation, parliament, bill to be moved, and new laws to be made. Legislation played an important part. So, the battle of the sexes rather than aesthetic principles and foreign thought was the central issue of the 90s, reflected in changing legislation, in shifting fashions of costumes and even furniture. And of course, in the literature of the period. My God, it is all reflected in every part of livelihood, every part of the society, every segment. So, even the furniture and literature, so it all affected them. Legislation had to be done, attitudes, moralities, decadence, things of that sort. Whatever was genuine in English decadence of the 90s rested on a fear of the decay of one sex beside the looming dominance of the other. Mind you, my dear viewers, the attempts of one side to dominate on the other has been a long winding affair for years and years, for decades, and probably for centuries. So, one side or one sex tries to dominate the other, or vice versa. And that continued then, is continuing today, and will do so probably in the future too, alas. Alas, my dear viewers. The blurring of the sexes had long been the preoccupation of the decadent movement in France at that time. But the whole point of Brumel's revolution, the whole point of dandyism was to forego this. Why? Let's see what it says. The clothes of gentility do not say, I am a man, and how? I am a man, and how? But I am a gentleman. That's the catch. That's the beauty. The clothes of gentility do not say, I am a man, and how? But I am a gentleman, and I hope to attract women, not by asserting my masculinity, but by demonstrating my membership of a social class. See, that is important. Not by the strength, not by being masculine or over masculine, to show off in front of a lady. But it is the way you demonstrate that you are a member of a social class, of a high class, high thinking, values, etc., morality. That is important. Same thing goes for your, fashion designing, and how you dress, how you conduct yourself. That's important. And it is important just as much as for the older people as it is for the younger ones. And in fact, in my view, particularly for the younger people. I beseech you, request you, my young friends, that you think about this. The strength is not all that counts. It is the conduct, the behavior, the morality that counts. And that is the beauty. After the end of the war, both New Edwardians and teddy boys were extinct. They were gone. Both these phenomena were in the nature of back eddies. Like bad boys, back eddies. The main line of development showed once more the male costume evolved by adopting a sports costume for ordinary wear. That's important. Sportswear, sports dresses, they matter a lot because it counts spirit. Like it says, sportsman spirit, esprit de corps. The other day I was talking about it for the World Youth Day. So the male costume evolved by adopting a sports costume for ordinary wear, and this development was much aided in the years immediately after the war. So things started changing after the war. I do like the dandy style personally. I like the teddy style as well. I have no airs about it. In fact, I do like almost everything. I don't have to dislike anything. And I respect those who like them. And sometimes would like to also share with them. So I do like the dandy style, like the teddy style, in spite of arguably some critics' displeasure and negative descriptions of these. I would like to develop and work on my own and individual style in designing and tailoring. I didn't say that. I'm not saying it. You know who said that? My nephew Arman. He's in Chittagong now. There is a very important link between dandyism and gentility. And I would agree with James Lover, author of Dandies, that since we do not anymore value the virtues of gentility to the same extent, a member of the fashion world can now be expect a resurgence, mind you, not of that precise and elegant formality, but of a new exuberance and gorgeousness in dress. See, this happens. Sometimes you slim down, sometimes you curtail with the passage of time, sometimes you go beyond, you modernize, you exaggerate, you exuberate. That's it. That's part of life. It just happens. And we've got to accept it. We should accept it instead of reacting and criticizing. The question is, what will be my self-styled modus operandi? And how am I going to cope with the present situation? Arman asks, in the context of recession, high cost, shrunken purchasing power, and shopping shyness, etc. And how do I adapt to the tastes of modern people and to the modern trends? See, as I said earlier, it changes with the passage of time. Everything changes. In fact, old things come back. That is also beauty. There was too much stress on luxury, elaborateness, ostentation during the older times of kings, princes, aristocrats, and even the Nawabs, like Siraj-ud-Dawla of Bengal, when diamonds were his pick. My God. Which are to be substituted. Look, they have to be substituted. I mean, you cannot go on the same kind of expensive, trends. So they have to be substituted and so on. Now there is a need for change. Emphasis being on products or productions which are less costly, more affordable. Of course, not at the cost of quality. This is significant. Quality cannot be compromised. So not at the cost of quality, and going trends or demands. That is, entrepreneurship, demands. You go by the demands. Supply and demand. That's the economic theory. Mix and match of the classic. Mix and match of the classic with the modernity being one approach. This is one approach. Mix and match of the older times or the classic times with the modernity, modern times is one approach. Now we talk of today, today's needs and preferences, what and how to improve accordingly. See, this is what we question ourselves and move forward accordingly. What does Armand tell his client? For example, a diplomat making a particular demand, diplomat like me, like I was, a diplomat making a particular demand on the basis that he would not want to spend too much. Naturally, couldn't spend too much, couldn't afford all the time. Yet, is not fully compromising. Not compromise. I would never compromise with the coveted goal of being impressive. I would not compromise with perfection. I would not compromise with values I set myself for my life. So, how does he handle a preference made like that? Armand, my nephew, asks me. Situation is to be handled wisely, he says. Satisfying the client, yet not losing the necessity to get the right kind of income and intent of successful as a designer has to remain supreme. Armand re-emphasizes. Armand from Chittagong maintains. All said and done, my dear viewers, young people, ladies and gentlemen, all said and done, Armand says selling and marketing of his product would figure prominently in corporate sector. Has to be a principal target without which survival is not easy. Armand continues, I would not wish to sell a lot. He says he did not want to sell too many things, sell a lot. In bulk, not so much, not in commercial quantity, but will make the right stuff. Few and bespoke, designer made. Right stuff, few and bespoke as per my own predilection of my liking, which really will impress my client, my customer into having it. This is important. Look, my young nephew, he's 1/3 my age. He had wonderful thoughts, principles, the way he wanted to go. This is where I will admit I'm not particularly into entrepreneurship. Armand says that again. He's not an enterprise-minded person. He's a creative person. Entrepreneurship can be done by somebody else. Somebody can manage him. For that matter, any fashion designer, any creative person in the world of arts and crafts and culture. So, Armand is now in Chittagong ready with his own brand new and unique brand of menswear to be launched in collaboration with an Islamabad design house. So, collaboration. Chittagong, Islamabad, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Collaboration, harmony, understanding, and better things to do. Go forward. That is important. Very, very important. So I wish Armand well and support him. And I'm sure you, my viewers, would also, given the chance, would also support him. You see, I pray and I request. In the showbiz or media world, ladies and gentlemen, dandies appear to be staging a comeback. Not simply a street fashion this could turn to, it may capture the Hollywood glamour and become a new world trend of the magnitude and depth no eccentric or egoistic eclectic, no eccentric or egoistic eclectic will be obtrusive to or will remain elusive to the fashion world. And that potential I have in mind and will try and capture to the fullest. I agree with what Armand said again in the end. Well, that's it, my dear viewers. This author has been a senior diplomat of Pakistan, assigned to several countries where he made good use of his creative and cultural background as a radio, TV director, producer once upon a time, while organizing image building events of arts and culture, including costume and fashion shows on behalf of Pakistan diplomatic missions abroad. 2 out of vogue fashion shows stand projected by your host and is looked forward to. Also, another project of the establishment of Center for Cultural Diplomacy in Pakistan, or for Pakistan. I, your host, can be reached on my email ID Salahuddin168 SALADIN 168 at gmail.com, and on Twitter handle at SalahuddinCH SALADINCH Twitter handle. So that's great. I'm happy. I feel great having spoken to you, my good viewers, my youngsters, girls and boys, and all that you were giving me a patient hearing and a patient watch. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.